The black pill is undefeated. Everybody knows what it is at this point. The lazy, incurious, nihilistic mindset used predominantly by young people with little to no life experience who want to think they've cracked the code and discovered secrets to life that people who have lived much longer than them have never considered. There are, of course, a few exceptions, but I think that encapsulates a sufficient portion of people who currently espouse and exemplify the beliefs of the black pill online. And these people are causing real damage. People are giving themselves skin cancer with peptides, risking blinding themselves with cancer drugs that supposedly make you taller, mutilating their faces for social validation, and just outright proclaiming their plans to commit suicide, all stemming from black pill or looksmaxxing philosophies. I've made a video on the topic before in which I was put in my place with a whole lot of facts and logic, as well as statistical evidence. Obviously not. But I definitely didn't really make that much of a mark on the online black pill discourse, and I've wanted to take another crack at it after seeing the response and after kicking cancer to the curb again, hopefully for the last time. With my new perspective has come the rise of several new figures that I think really represent everything I want to combat, and the time has come to make a more serious attempt at making a difference. So with that in mind, let's meet a few of our main characters today, starting with the one, the only, Clavicular, aka Braden Peters.
Think I want to talk about your hobbies? Bitch, I want to get in your head. We live in one of the worst societies ever throughout the entire history of the world.
Some of his best moments include clavicular manslaughter, overdosing on meth, and constantly going viral for getting mogged and being on the verge of tears. He is currently coming off a trip to Paris, which Nick Fuentes had some thoughts about.
That was a Hitler-level blitzkrieg on Paris, and I love to see it.
As well as a new batch of surgeries that have many speculating on if he is currently descending. And now let's move on to Pear, one of the hottest up-and-coming looksmaxxers and a strong advocate for the use of steroids.
Oh my god, guys. I just been test, bro. I already feel like the edits are incoming, dude.
His specialty is making up reasons to justify his choices and constantly clickbaiting his side effects and acting like his life is over. His looksmaxxing highlights include taking trenbolone just to look like a natural lifter and wearing shoe lifts and socks in his pants to give him a cock halo. And who can forget about Garfield Arbuckle?
Whenever I see a short, effeminate gay man, I think to myself, did they ever have a choice? Love is just Santa Claus for adults. I'm a grown man, not a baby.
An up-and-coming TikToker who's a black pillar in a more traditional sense, doing nothing to improve his life and constantly whining about how people treat him unfairly. He is an absolute geyser of cope, a veritable cornucopia. And you know he's a true black pillar because he says he has an evolutionary fear of unattractive people. And how about one of the OGs, Rehab Room?
And these two chicks here are so DTF. So DTF. Both of them. He could have hit them both.
Give him a very good kiss. That's what my tastes like.
The premier one-stop shop for ways to stop coping, commentary on video game streamer relationships, and off-putting sexual remarks. And a guest star, Timothy Haireth, a newcomer that's undergoing 11 simultaneous surgeries at age 21. We don't know much, but we know that's probably not right. This is the black pill, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, that's the end of the bit. No more fancy editing, just information and commentary. Now, before we cover how the black pill philosophy as a whole will inevitably become a self-fulfilling prophecy, I want to establish how social interactions and relationships can also become predetermined, and how this can further strengthen their core beliefs through confirmation bias. See, when people approach interactions with preconceived notions of how they will be seen, it can heavily influence how they treat others, and in turn how they perceive being treated. There's a psychological concept known as hostile attributional bias, which states that if people approach interactions with the belief that they will be treated poorly, they will in turn become hostile. The implications of this are twofold. The people they interact with will treat them accordingly, and the protagonist will also be more likely to see neutral actions as targeting them. Additionally, a concept I'm sure we're all familiar with is confirmation bias. The idea that once someone already thinks something, they will be searching for that conclusion everywhere, and can also be overly dismissive of alternative explanations. This bias becomes much more potent when a person has already made consequential decisions in favor of their beliefs. This means that having an already established mindset about the nature of society will oftentimes end up reinforcing that mindset, both through existing social interactions or even the absence of them. I think two characters are the best representation of this, Clavicular and Garfield Arbuckle. Now, for Mr. Peters, Clavicular has stated that he is neurodivergent and extremely averse to social interactions, to the point that he could not talk to people without being on several substances, like beer, anti-anxiety drugs, and even muscle relaxants.
It's very difficult for me to talk and interact with people when I'm sober, and I'm less entertaining. I'm just not operating at my full potential.
In high school, he went as far as to give a detailed layout of his day, in which he took every effort to say as little words as possible, aiming for less than 50 words per day. He writes, "Here's how I say 50 words or less per day. I wake up 30 minutes earlier than I have to, so I don't have to see my parents in the morning. I get up at 6 a.m. for school, even though I don't start for like 2 hours after that. I just sit in my car and wait for it to start." He goes on to describe his efforts down to minute details, including not walking into the classroom first or last, looking at the teacher unless they look at him, never following anyone on Instagram, not eating lunch and sitting in the library to be alone but avoid the stigma of being alone, not wearing deodorant to the gym because nobody will approach him, and eating at absurd times to avoid his family. He also specifies that he greets his dog because she is the only female he will ever have a bond with, and ends with, "I used to have a therapist, but I stopped going because of how dreadful it is. They constantly try to blue pill you and warp your sense of reality."
This is contradicted because you need steps to go IRL. Yeah, that's because I don't like to do anything. I like to rot in my house. I don't like video games. I don't like doing things. I don't like anything. I like to sit in my house all day and do nothing.
Surely this guy didn't need the therapy. This is fine. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to point out that this strategy doesn't seem conducive with being popular at school. This, combined with his presence on looksmaxxing and Blackpill forums since a young age, led him to the conclusion that people are fundamentally shallow, and that his life would be much better if he was more attractive. At this point, he decided to start using performance-enhancing drugs, as well as engaging in things like bone smashing, injections, and inserting PDO threads into his face and even his penis. Following this high school experience, Clavicular became what people would call a player, if they were trying to be nice at least.
I like you more than my girlfriend. What? Do you wanna go have sex?
And he would post several videos expressing his frustration with some attempts he had made to flirt with women. In these videos, he would state that he went into these interactions without any interest in them as people, but rather in an attempt to fool them into thinking he liked them so that they could have sex.
I don't know where I'm going wrong, which is why it's so frustrating. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. How about you do me the courtesy of, after all these conversations and text messages that I don't even want to... You think I want to talk about your hobbies? Bitch, I want to get in your pants, goddammit. And I want to convince you that I'm not trying to you, which is why I'm having the conversation.
The totality of Clavicular's other experiences amount to going to Arizona State University, a school widely known as a party school and one at which the students sleep around gratuitously, and then moving to Miami as an influencer, constantly going to clubs and partying. And finally, people started paying attention to him after his quote-unquote ascension, and despite the fact that much of this attention was solely due to the extreme lengths he went to in order to ascend, and his otherwise erratic behavior, it still led some to the conclusion that it was due to his better looks. So, to recap, he hates and is terrible at social interactions, has no interest in who people are.
There's really not that many people that are worth interacting with, I would say.
What do you mean?
Like, most people are extremely jester.
Like they're funny, or like they're just
have completely misprioritized lives.
Made decisions dating back to 14 years old in favor of the mentality that people are completely superficial, and went on to constantly sleep around and party, and then somehow ends up with the conclusion that looks are all that matter. Not only does every course of action he takes make it extremely likely that people around him will treat him according to his mindset, but he never even gave any other mindset a chance. From what I could gather, Clavicular was a taller than average kid with decent genetics and was by no means unattractive, also growing up in an extremely wealthy area. But he was extremely antisocial and had no interest in the personalities of those around him, and proceeded to surround himself with the most shallow people possible. Was there ever a question of how his interactions would go? His experiences prove nothing, and his entire ideology is based on this faulty reasoning. But let's move on to a different type of person. Not a looksmaxxer, but a pure blackpiller who bases many of his beliefs on his failed relationships. Now obviously, establishing Garfield Arbuckle as a blackpiller is pretty easy. He's mentioned the black pill in his captions several times, had several takes on his own failings being due to his looks, but there's also that horrible clip in which he claims to have an evolutionary fear of unattractive people.
Does anyone else have a subconscious fear of people they find unattractive? I feel like a massive dickhead for saying this, but it affects the way I live my life a lot. Because I don't like to be seen in public or make friends with these kinds of people.
Let's start very simple. Garfield has stated that he doesn't believe in quote-unquote Disney love, based on one anecdote of his brother's relationship failing.
It's so fucking tragic to see people who still believe in Disney love miserably fail. What I mean by Disney love is a kind of love that's been pushed onto you by media since you were a kid. My brother's girlfriend recently left him and he's been heartbroken. I think she was his first ever girlfriend and the way she did him was so fucking nasty.
And that love essentially amounts to Santa Claus for adults.
That love is just Santa Claus for adults. It's a lie, and like Santa, you've been conditioned to believe in it. People like to think that love is something pure, that it looks above status, looks, prejudice. But that's not true. It's superficial. You're not going to be loved for being a good person.
Garfield also states that he had never had a serious relationship, believe it or not, and that seeing love in media actually makes him distressed.
Does anyone else get really upset when they're listening to a song about love or when they're watching a romantic movie? And I feel like a complete loser for saying this, but I actually get mad when I'm forced to listen to a song about love. And when I'm watching a movie or show at home and there's a romantic scene, I always try to skip over it. Some people don't believe me, but I've never had a loving romantic relationship in my entire life. Whenever I see these people in love, it just reminds me of my failures in trying to reach that. And I feel like that's the main reason why seeing all these relationships in media makes me so mad. It just makes me so envious listening to a song or seeing a screen about something I've never had.
Okay, so we're off to a good start. A 20-year-old who has never had a long-term relationship has already concluded that love doesn't exist. Well, there's also his views about friendship. Not only has Garfield confessed his surprise at not being able to buy friendship, but he also has only ever cited the fact that everyone else likes someone as a reason for being friends with them.
One of the hardest pills to swallow is that you can't buy your way into friendship. I used to have this one friend who I did a lot of favors for, and the more I think about it, the more I realize he never cared about me at all. And it sucks because I invested a lot into him. Every year on his birthday, I'd give him a funny t-shirt. Every time we went out for food, I'd pay for him. Every time he asked me for money, I'd Venmo him. Every time his bum ass needed a ride, I drove him. But I didn't mind because he was a charismatic guy. Everyone in school liked him and I wanted to be friends with him. And I thought through these transactions I was building trust and loyalty, but I really wasn't. And it's crazy because he's done things that still haunt me to this day. Just the other night I was thinking about it and I was so fucking pissed.
He has also said that someone who saw his videos wanted to be friends with him, and he immediately assumed it was because of his elevated status as a TikToker.
It's funny how people will treat you differently once you gain a bit of status. So I make TikTok videos, which is obvious because you're watching this right now. And people from my college and high school have been seeing them, which is pretty cool because they're a lot more open to me now. I was at this little function a couple weeks ago and I started talking to this dude who I barely knew. And he goes, "Oh, I see your videos all the time on my For You page," and we have a pleasant conversation. But what surprised me was when he suggested that we hang out in the summer. Again, this is my third ever chat with him and I felt like we skipped a couple of steps. I was taken aback because no one has ever asked me to hang out like that. People rarely even ask me to hang out in general. I recently heard something along the lines of, be wary of the people who come into your life when you're doing well.
Not only is it really sad that he thinks it confers some power to him that a couple thousand people watch his videos, but all of these clips indicate that Garfield approaches friendships in a very transactional way. So is it any surprise that when anything doesn't go his way, he thinks people are conspiring to take advantage of him for social gain?
Lately I've been feeling that there are so many people around me who lie to me. For example, in terms of relationships, I always get love bombed, and sometimes we crack, sometimes we don't, and then they say they just wanted to be friends from the start. And I also had to slime one of my closest homeboys out of my life because he was being so deceitful and doing shit behind my back. And the people who always lie to me never get any repercussions for that.
Finally, Garfield has come to the conclusion that people judge how they feel about you within milliseconds of meeting you, and that there's little to nothing you can do to change that.
There's no such thing as having game when it comes to dating. This concept is made to give you the illusion of free will because someone's attraction to you is actually decided within milliseconds of them seeing you. You are made to believe, oh, if I just did this or said that, I could have rizzed them up Duke Dennis style. No. Get this into your stupid fucking head. If they actually liked you, then they would have been with you.
Does this sound like someone that's going to make an effort to be a likable person that others want to be around? Why try and bond with people if nothing you do will change how they feel about you? These all overlay a belief that social interactions are almost completely outside of one's control, and that Garfield thinks of them as transactional. Is it at all a shock that someone with these beliefs struggles socially? And is it a shock that he attributes these failings to people being ultimately shallow? Overall, separate from any particular figure, I've seen a lot of blackpillers use a lack of certain things happening to them as evidence for their belief. Many people who follow looksmaxxing or the blackpill cite social interactions in which they weren't the complete center of attention or immediately respected by everyone they met.
I've never been the first option in my entire life. I have just never been the first pick for anything.
This is an unrealistic expectation regardless of your appearance. If it would take an unreasonable outcome for you to change your belief, then you're exhibiting your confirmation bias, and said belief will always be reinforced. This is a non sequitur. I wasn't the most universally popular and loved person, therefore people are fundamentally shallow and I need extensive surgical operations or drugs to improve my appearance. Essentially, if you already have a desired or preconceived result in mind, you will be much more likely to draw that conclusion from both real interactions or the absence of them. This is what makes the social aspect of the black pill a self-fulfilling prophecy. Many of them never gave socialization a real shot, consistently falling back on beliefs that would likely poison a relationship from the very beginning in order to explain those very failings. Now let's look at the mindset as a whole and how the never enough theory reveals the true nature of the black pill. The never enough theory is just what it sounds like. It largely encapsulates many ideas blackpillers espouse, like genetic determinism and an overall helplessness, combined with the notion that many people can naturally and effortlessly surpass the efforts of artificial looksmaxxing. It can also be applied to people who are naturally attractive if they express one single iota of having trouble in their own lives, because obviously it should be impossible for people to have problems if they mog. Essentially, it's a catch-all that is thrown around anytime someone doing well has any struggles, or the idea that the real world isn't all sunshine and rainbows even if you look good. At this point, I think it's appropriate to just refer to it as the general unproductive nihilism of the black pill, frequently thrown around as an excuse to not put any effort into real self-improvement. The absolute worst example of the never enough theory is Blackpiller's response to the unfortunate suicide of Haruma Miura, a Japanese actor and singer. Following his death, many Blackpillers would make edits of him, all of which were accompanied by disgusting comments like, "Even Chang gets depressed," referring to him as the stupid looksmaxxing term for an Asian Chad, or spamming the never enough theory. All of which stems from the fact that he was attractive and that blackpillers cannot fathom that there is actually more to life than your external appearance, and it is possible to have problems regardless of that. This particular topic has always disgusted me, because you would think upon first glance that it would actually contradict many blackpill beliefs, causing people to think about the fact that everyone is still a human being, whether they are considered conventionally attractive or not. Obviously, this is already a universally known truth, but a lot of these people seem to lack human decency, so you take what you can get. Shockingly though, instead of thinking critically for a single second, they decide to slap the never enough theory onto the situation, to lazily dismiss the idea that appearance isn't everything, and vaguely claim that even his attractiveness wasn't enough. It's completely illogical, and I am really having trouble seeing some of these users as actual humans if they're able to come across a tragic suicide and make these absolutely soulless and repulsive comments. A less severe yet more intuitive case of people spouting this crap is this guy I've come across on TikTok a few times who seems to be having trouble sharing any problems he has in life or with dating because he's a tall person.
People are blinded by my physical stats and assume I'm just complaining about not being able to receive attention from women. That's not the case. I'm not struggling to find women that want me. I'm struggling to find a woman worth keeping.
And the morons in the comments seem to be unable to comprehend that tall people can also have problems. This one is less consequential, but I wonder how there can be humans roaming our Earth that will actually type these horrendously unaware and callous comments with their fingers on their cellular phone. It just speaks to the larger issue that life will not automatically become amazing and perfect if these things people are so fixated on become reality, especially if they're so mentally ill they would go so far as to get surgeries or take dangerous drugs to achieve them. Speaking of that, let's look at Clavicular and Pear. Clearly, Clavicular is not a happy human being, which comes immediately evident upon seeing almost any video that gets posted of him online. Not only is he extremely miserable, but he is also constantly getting mocked, despite his extreme efforts to improve his appearance, at least in the opinion of many online.
Thank you. You look sick, man.
Thanks. You too. I love how they all try to do like the autism face. What's up, man? How's it going? Cool, man. That's really cool. Whatever you said.
channel, no, because like I'm waiting for a phone call, but I might need.
Ironically, and somewhat poetically, there are plenty of people who are comparing his appearance from 4 months ago with his appearance now, after he got several other surgeries, most notably a rhinoplasty, and saying that he has descended. He had apparently, at least in most people's opinions, reached his peak appearance with all of the drastic efforts that made him famous in the first place. But since in his mind, he believed that nothing would ever be enough, he couldn't help but to keep going further, eventually resulting in his quote-unquote descent. If you consider this to be true, it would probably be the clearest indication that rather than address the physical concerns of these mentally ill people, it would be far more effective to address their underlying mental issues. Pear, on the other hand, has made many posts himself, lamenting how he feels like it will never be enough, from him getting frame mogged by natural lifters.
I keep on getting frame mogged, dude, and they're all fucking naturals, dude. Like, I just got done with my workout, man. You know, I'm pumped up, bro. You know, I got the extra enhanced pump, so, you know, I'm feeling it. Look, go in the gym locker room, look, pose in the mirror. They just keep coming in one after one after one, and they pose right next to me. I was like, holy shit. First guy, height mogged me. Second guy, frame mogged me. Third guy, frame mogged me. And he just kept coming. I just had to stop posing altogether.
To him posting about the myriad of normal ass problems he has that he likes to pretend are super profound. With him though, it's honestly just sad that he keeps pretending he's done anywhere near enough for anyone to think of him as anything special. All he's done, to my knowledge, is use peptides, get diagnosed with skin cancer.
So yeah, bro, someone call the happening guy, because something happened. I low-key, even high-key, have skin cancer. And no, not like Lucas Eagle lifts, bro. It's not a chill cancer, bro. So bro, I've been on MT2 for a little bit, and I had to get moles removed from the dermatologist, you know. They're just fully healed up, you know, they're scarred a little bit. But I was excited to get back on, you know, get a good tan. You know, right now, carotenoids are saving my tan.
And then use steroids just to look like a natural. Obviously though, it's still quite the revelation to find out that despite him living out his amazing high-test dreams, life did not immediately become perfect. Something common for steroid users specifically is that in order to keep growing, they will constantly up their doses, and nothing will ever feel like enough. Here's an extremely young user pretty much mirroring this exact point.
If you're thinking about hopping on anything, like whether that be gear, peps, or like literally anything, I think you should know that's a decision you can't go back on. It's never gonna be enough. You'll always want to do more, do something more extreme, and I know this from personal experience.
Oh look, here's Pear upping his doses.
I can say without a certain of a doubt now that test confidence is definitely a real thing, bro. So, you know, I recently just upped the dose up to 500, and holy shit, I just feel like way more drive, dude. And I just want to eat more food. I just want to fuck. I want to eat and fuck, dude.
We just upped the fucking trend dose, bro. Up the big 500, 105 trend, dude, you know. We got the little bit of gyno going on, but it's chill, bro.
Yep. One of the more mainstream recent examples of the never enough theory is the breakup between Tens and Kaide that happened a while ago. For the uninitiated, Tens is a Valorant streamer and was formerly considered to be one of the best professional Valorant players in the world. And he had been dating Kaide, who also started to stream Valorant, since they were both 17 and in high school. They got engaged in August of 2022 before Kaide was diagnosed with leukemia in 2023, obviously putting their relationship on hold. An interesting side note is that she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is the exact disease I've been fighting for the past almost 2 years. Anyway, Tens and Kaide announced a mutual and amicable end to their relationship in February of this year, prompting an absolute firestorm of criticism from a bunch of Redditors who had no idea what went on between the two of them behind closed doors. Because Tens stayed with Kaide and cared for her throughout her fight with cancer, which was of course an extremely admirable and noble thing to do, people immediately assumed that Kaide was the spawn of the devil for ending their relationship, throwing around the never enough theory and even making accusations of infidelity. Throughout the entire saga, Tens shared absolutely nothing about the situation, only asking that people stop harassing him and Kaide. the levels of hate for her were astronomical, when all anyone knew from the outside was that she had cancer while they were dating, and then they decided to break up. Everyone just wanted to project things they already thought or were insecure about onto the situation, and as a result, they dumped it all on a cancer survivor and turned it into some lame overarching commentary on women and how they can never be pleased. I'm sure you see where this is going. Enter the black pill. As an example of blackpillers commenting on the situation, I will be referring to Rehab Room, who I talked about in my last video on the topic. You may remember him for phrases like,
"There are so DTF, both of them. He could have hit them both at the same time."
Or an anecdote in which he saw a smiling young cashier and assumed he was happy because he had had sex that morning.
The other day I was at a sneaker store and the kid working there, you know, the sales associate guy, was some 8 out of 10 pretty boy. Like a legit good blend of neo-tennis features and masculine features. Compact mid-face, youthful baby face, but also a good jawline. Good hair, you know, good eye area and stuff. And just from the way he was smiling when he was talking to me, just from his manners, I could tell that he was genuinely happy about his life. It wasn't a fake expression that he puts on for customers. He probably got some action that morning, only a few hours ago. You know, I can't tell. I couldn't help but feel an immense sense of jealousy.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, Rehab Room starts the portion of the video surrounding Kaede with a clip of her saying that it's normal for people to fall out of love.
It's normal for people to fall out of love.
Which is literally true. 80% or more of all romantic relationships eventually come to an end, and 98% of childhood sweetheart relationships come to an end. Anyway, he concludes immediately from hearing that they broke up that she was into someone else and it was her who initiated the breakup. This is also backed up with a tweet from known pedophile and deranged, disgraced Valorant streamer Sick, who claims that Kaede had told him she wanted to experiment with other men with absolutely no evidence.
So here it is. Kaede told me multiple times in multiple ways that she wanted to experiment with other men.
This person had been shown to have manic episodes and say horrible things, including slurs, but people like Mizkif and Rehab Room 100% believe him here. Rehab Room also launches into a weird anecdote, mentioning that someone was going to watch Amaranth videos anyway, so their partner cheated.
Nobody's buying it, brother. Oh, he was gonna watch Amaranth videos anyway. I need to discover myself. 99% of the time. It is not yourself that you want to discover. It is another dude.
Really odd stuff. This is also supplemented with several clips of the Spider-Man movies when he and MJ were breaking up.
It's over.
No. Please. Please don't say that. Guys, it's been a tough week for Coppers.
As if this somehow reinforces his point. This guy actually has the mind of a 12-year-old.
And guys, Tansy stood by her side through cancer. Sacrificed his own professional gamer career. Sacrificed his streaming schedule, all for her. And this is the thanks he gets. This is why you never get more invested than the other party in any interpersonal relationship.
Like I said, Tens is very noble for doing what he did, but saying this is the thanks he gets, as if he didn't do it because he loved her, but instead because he expected some sort of obligation for her to be trapped with him forever, is just insulting to him. Kaede isn't obligated to stay, and he probably isn't the type to want her to be, because he seems like an actual nice person. Of course, his teammates also catch a stray here for being sub 5 and no-lifing Valorant to find refuge. Dude, they turned a hobby into a living. You're a fucking loser, obsessed with the appearance and relationships of other men. I'm begging you to get a grip. As a survivor of acute myeloid leukemia myself, this situation was very difficult to watch unfold, because it seemed to me that she was being dogpiled on for the crime of being sick and then breaking up with her partner. Nobody knew anything about the circumstances surrounding their breakup, only that she had been sick and that Ten stayed with her. And don't get me wrong, that's an amazing and wonderful thing to do. But it's also true that sometimes life happens, and this relationship statistically had a 2% chance of succeeding. The fact that everyone was so desperate to project their own feelings about relationships onto the situation, without considering that staggering statistic, is just pathetic to witness. And honestly, even if she was a horrible person, it doesn't matter. Obviously it matters to Tens, and that would be horrible after he was so loyal to her. But it wouldn't be some illuminating revelation of human nature. Some people are just bad people. Even if Kaede was one, it wouldn't mean all people or all women are. This mindset of a video game streamer's girlfriend doing something reflecting the entirety of human nature is just super brain rotted. But let's talk a little more about Rehab Room. I'm sure all the stellar content I've shown from him is more than enough to convince you that he's a real prize. But shockingly, it seems like he may have had some trouble with relationships in the past. One comment relays that while he's done everything right, working out, getting a job, a house, he still doesn't have a girlfriend. Well, this must be incontrovertible proof of the black pill. I mean, surely he's not just an insufferable and likely sex-obsessed person. Surely the things he says don't reflect having a poor and maladjusted mindset. As I said in my prior video, there must have been some glitch in the system, because they should have sent him his government-mandated girlfriend after learning he did normal-ass things like going to the gym or getting a job. There's only one factor that's missing, of course, an attractive face. Or maybe like personality or something, but that's probably just cope, right? Well, if you think that his personality couldn't be a factor that plays into unsuccessful dating efforts, let's go into a hypothetical. Rehab Room gets a date with someone and they're engaging in small talk. They ask, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? And he answers, I make YouTube videos where I talk about how one photographer is not white, so the girls say no. And another photographer is 5'8" Chad Light, so the girls are so DTF. Both at the same time likely, and about how the cashier smiled at me, so I fantasized about him having sex that morning. And I also made a video about a video game streamer breaking up with his girlfriend, and how that's why you should never get invested in a woman. So anyway, you already decided everything about me based on my face, so are you DTF or not? The only reason somebody could be in a good mood is if they had freaking sex that morning, guys. And it's because he was a freaking Chad Light. I bet he and his Stacy have so much freaking sex together, and they're so happy. I mean, you should listen to this guy talking about a tale of a woman cheating on her husband with absolute glee in his voice, inventing scenarios in which him kissing her would be a delivery system for the other guy's penis.
Like, imagine her husband, bro. Put yourself in his shoes. He was thinking, oh, I found a cute right-wing wife. And now he's humiliated. Now he's destroyed for the entire world to see. And even worse, he probably shaked hands with that guy. Elijah, the guy he cheated on him with, the guy who put a baby in his wife. Brutal, bro. You know, they probably mocked him behind his back. Elijah was probably like, Sarah, now you can go home. Give him a very good kiss. That's what my tastes like. Elijah probably most likely took great pleasure meeting him, meeting her husband in real life. Cause I know I would. Like, if you are that guy, if you are Elijah, you know you would take great pleasure just looking at him right in the eye, giving that sucker a firm handshake.
With how much this guy fantasizes about this kind of stuff, I think he actually just has a cuckold fetish. He is just odd. If you'd be wooed by his dazzling wit and smooth talking, then I guess I'm just barking up the wrong tree. I'll just let you decide. Overall, the never enough theory is a great way to illustrate the black pill being a self-fulfilling prophecy as a whole. That's because when your entire life's journey is predicated on the idea that nothing will ever be enough, then you'll never be happy, no matter how many chemicals and incisions you use to have a better face. People who have apparently gone through entire ascensions still feel insecure enough to get more surgeries chasing better looks, while still lamenting that they have mental problems and their life isn't perfect. The core issue was never their appearance, it was the mindset that led them down this path. And I think the best way to illustrate that is to focus on the fact that many people who are ascending are still unhappy. And also to solidify in everyone's minds that these people are literally just insecure children. They all confess to being horrible socially, call themselves neurodivergent, approach interactions with horrendously superficial intentions, and lo and behold, after transitioning to a lifestyle of constant drugs and partying, still find themselves to be unhappy. These are not some wise philosophers who have somehow cracked the code to society, despite barely being on this earth long enough to buy cough syrup at the grocery store. They're sad, pathetic, socially inept children who are superimposing some sort of trauma onto perfectly normal, average high school experiences. The correct way to address issues with self-image that can cause the sufferer to consider extreme and potentially dangerous ways to alter their appearance is not to encourage them to see through their vision, but to look at the underlying disordered thinking.
My foid mother wants me to go to therapy, but she doesn't realize there's no therapy for my face.
The catchphrase ascend and forget is a dead giveaway. If you have genuine trauma and mental issues, you won't forget by getting surgery. It won't fix the internal problems.
Bro, the most brutal truth out there right now is genuinely, bro, like, no matter how much bigger you get, like, no matter how much better looking you get, you know, if you lose weight, you know, maybe you grow taller, bro, you'll still be that insecure little kid.
This reminds me of the controversy surrounding the Super Smash Bros. Player Hax and his unfortunate passing. Hacks posted hours of content in a Google Doc with hundreds of pages targeting Leffen, who is certainly one of the most controversial and hated figures in the Smash Bros. Community. His criticism did not exactly amount to a reasonable and thought-provoking critique, as he was essentially calling Leffen a fascist, a point that was accompanied by quotes from Hitler, and the sheer amount of content he produced raised a lot of eyebrows. After this, Hacks accused another player, Cody Schwab, of fabricating allegations of sexual abuse he had come out with, despite this account being regarded as true. To bring this tangent to a close, Hacks was banned from many Melee tournaments, and would later go on to pass away, which many have claimed was due to health complications from a suicide attempt following these bans. Some people actually had the audacity to blame Leffen or the venues that banned him, despite Hacks' erratic and manic behavior.
Every time he tried to get help or anything of that sort, he just said, I just need to be unbanned. And that's just like, that wasn't it. That was never it.
And I find it odd how their side claims that unbanning him wouldn't have solved anything, but in the same breath, think that forcing someone to go to therapy is a cure-all solution. Please, Cody, I need help. Just trust me, bro. I'm completely unqualified. But if I know one thing, it's that being unbanned, which to be clear is the only thing you're asking for, definitely won't help your mental health. Holy shit, Dr. Cody, you fucking nailed it.
The point is, Hacks clearly had extensive mental issues. To blame people for not allowing him to come to Smash tournaments is essentially saying the only solution to his mental issues was playing Super Smash Bros. If you cannot live without a video game, to the point that you make an attempt on your life, the solution is not for everyone to just allow you to play that video game, it's therapy. And I think that's a direct parallel to how looksmaxxers will go so far as to draw attention to the fact that their quote-unquote hard maxing stems from insecurity.
I'm doing this all because I'm insecure, bro. Alright, so yesterday I went out with my girlfriend to eat, we're talking, get to the main part, and I had to tell her that, well, I actually think I looked better when I was natural than enhanced, because look at me now, I'm more bloated, I got a thicker neck, freaking facial hair. She's like, oh, that makes me sound so sad, I think you have body dysmorphia or something, or you're insecure. No shit, that's the whole entire point, bro. Why else would I do it, bro?
It is less extreme, at least for most people, than going so far as to make an attempt on their own life, but it still involves going to extreme lengths that most people would never even consider, due to their own all-encompassing insecurity. To be able to proudly admit that this is all due to insecurity, not because society's superficial or women are hypergamous or some other platitude they tell themselves to justify their choices, is to show that it's not about some philosophical discussion, but rather genuine mental issues. Or they're lying about it and fabricating these issues for attention, which I believe some of these creators are also doing. To conclude this section, the Blackpill is a self-fulfilling prophecy both because if your life's philosophy centers around the fact that nothing is ever enough, nothing will ever be enough, unless you address the unhealthy thinking that fuels that mindset. And because if you approach interactions with the mindset that everyone around you will treat you a certain way no matter what you do, you are going to act accordingly. And those people will be all too happy to prove you right. And on the note of blackpillers just being socially inept and maladjusted children, let's talk about the root of the issue and why it might matter more than just your typical teenage rebellious phase. Have you ever heard a discussion along the lines of a parent complaining that their child is disobeying them, only to receive the reply of, "Did you listen to your mom and dad when you were growing up? No, because you thought you knew everything."
I always find it funny when parents try to tell their teenagers not to do dumb things, and I'm like, you didn't listen to your parents, so why don't you just hush and let them learn the hard way like you did, right? You can't help anybody. They have to learn the hard way usually. Generally, there are exceptions.
Well, that's exactly what I think when I see the profound philosophies of the Blackpillers. Take Garfield Arbuckle, for example. He made a post saying that he doesn't really believe in true love, and that love is like Santa Claus for adults. I think to most people who have a life outside of the internet, these clips seem a little bit ridiculous and a lot a bit sad and pathetic. But for me, what stands out the most is that it just sounds like something a little kid would say. Now, Garfield is admittedly already 20-teen, but some people are late bloomers. And that really is all most of these looksmaxxers are. Just rebellious and disobedient children who actually think they know better than grown adults who have lived in the real world.
If you recently hopped on and you feel the need to tell your parents, I'm here to tell you literally fucking don't.
Clavicular, who has spent 1 year in college, had absolutely no social experiences in high school because he would intentionally avoid socializing, and went straight to living as an influencer in Miami, has said that the only person who really cares for him is his father, but that his father expressed great disappointment in Clav's lifestyle.
My dad said
full-blown drug addict, sad. My dad said that. Oh, Dad. Dad, I'm making money. What the fuck do you want me to do? Next stream we'll give shit to the homeless or something.
These people are really just TikTok philosophers. They take mundane, common, everyday experiences and turn it into some radical new worldview that they think nobody's ever thought of before. One thing I thought was really hilarious was that this guy who's involved in the Blackpill community, Light, made a video saying that experience can be greater than raw IQ in certain contexts.
People say we shouldn't factor in age and that intelligence doesn't matter and stems beyond age. However, experience usually mogs intelligence for most factors of life.
The thing is, everything he said was extremely reasonable, but he got torn apart in the comments because the audience of 14-year-old blackpillers that he's attracted want to deny that. Any guesses why? And normally, most people would say there's not really much wrong with just being a know-it-all kid. I mean, practically everyone has done it. But there are several factors exacerbating these particular issues. Firstly, with everyone being online so much, people are socializing remarkably less, which would obviously produce more people that have no clue how to foster relationships. Additionally, there is unrestricted access to many looksmaxxing and blackpill communities through forums and TikToks and many other online sources. But most importantly, performance-enhancing drugs, peptides, and other so-called hard-maxing methods are becoming widely talked about and available, leading to a surge of new kids who did some surface-level research and have decided to artificially ascend. Many of them making this decision before they even finish developing physically, or at least before they've even tried to do so naturally. Pear is the biggest example I see all the time, but there are several others out there. And it becomes even more concerning when these children make posts essentially claiming they know better than their parents or doctors.
Nothing's gonna happen to me.
So what are you exactly taking so I can tell the doctors if something happens?
There's nothing gonna happen. It's just GHRP, which is a growth hormone.
So you're not supposed to be taking that stuff. That's like a steroid.
It's not like a steroid. It's helping me lift and stuff.
On this post, most of the comments are remarking on how little the poster seems to know about the topic. Or how about this beauty? Yeah, bro, it is so crazy that that's the case. So crazy that you may even start to think it's not true. Anyway, the point is that there is an increasing number of kids who think they know better than anyone else starting to adopt this philosophy.
I fucking hate researching, man. Like, I know there's lots of risks with the ERDA and shit, bro. Man, I can't even be fucked to ask AI about anything.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
So why then do so many people buy into this worldview? And why is it so easy for them to draw insecure adolescents in? Well, there are a multitude of reasons, but I think the most important ones are they want to think they're unique and different, it gives them a sense of community, and they want to think there's some easy way to improve their life. Let's start with wanting to think they're unique or different. There are plenty of these people who for some reason want to imply that they've faced some sort of immense struggle growing up, when in most cases it just amounts to being a quiet kid in high school, which resulted in them not being the most popular. Some of them also seem to constantly lament the existence of other people who are better off than them. Well, of course, it's a well-known established fact that girls never compare themselves to others and have negative feelings about it. Obviously, this is a unique struggle for the guys out there. Also, I think it's pretty funny how in this hypothetical, the shorty is upset about someone actually insulting her, while everything that happened to T-Mac over here is inside of his own head. I don't know if these people actually think they're having unique experiences, but it seems to be an omnipresent trend in the looksmaxxing sphere to take some completely normal and average high school experience and present it as some sort of horrible trauma. I mean, here's Pear saying that less people would be looksmaxxers if they had been treated better in a high school.
Kids were just treated well in high school, they would not care so much about their looks or even like hop on exogenous hormones. And honestly, I can relate to that. A lot of people ask me, yo, Pear, how did you get into this whole looksmaxxing shit? Why do you care so much about your looks? Well, to be honest, it was my high school experience. I was that kid. This might be really relatable. So, I was that kid who, when he talked, it felt like he was never heard. Like, I could talk to, like, my friends, and I would say their name, and they just wouldn't say anything back.
Or what about a Clav edit, which leads a commenter to conclude that the world made Clav the way he is.
Every single thing I did, I was self-conscious of. The way that I was standing, the way that I would go and grab a drink.
After hearing how Clav acted in high school, obviously having extremely stunted social skills, and hearing his monologue, how can you blame everything on the world? The solution for everything he's describing is not the world changing, it's changing how he sees the world. And it's certainly not to adhere to the supposedly horrible standards of this world that made him this way. He doesn't need permanent appearance-altering and health-impacting interventions. He needed therapy. But beyond this, the issues being described here are literally all from being ignored in high school because he didn't talk to people. These are the most mundane, everyday experiences. There's an absurdly large amount of movies, songs, and shows about not being popular in high school because it's one of the most basic things that happens to millions of people every year. Everyone has been mogged before. Some people are just well adjusted and don't throw a tantrum and have an existential crisis about it. But speaking of separating themselves from everyone else, these Blackpill circles also give people a sense of community. And this can be seen from the insane amount of gatekeeping they do, even on literal TikTok posts. The most common reply you'll get on any Blackpill related post if you ask what something means is that you're a LARP or gray. Or they'll just use some other obscure term to refer to you so the rest of the comment section can laugh at you.
I never understood why it was an insult. I mean, bro, I had a little under 2,000 posts, I'm not gonna lie. So obviously not a grade, but it doesn't even matter. The thing is, when you're talking about this, you're just basically saying, yo, I'm more chronically online than you, and you have a life, and you actually pull bitches and shit.
Which is kind of ignoring the fact that this is TikTok, a platform with 2 billion users, and you could probably find out the meaning of these terms with a simple Google search. Regardless though, they seem really proud of themselves for knowing something that hardly anyone else knows, because hardly anyone else cares. The closed-off nature of the community probably contributes to how special it makes people feel to be involved in. Along with the fact that they pretend to have unlocked secrets of society that people who are much older than them somehow haven't discovered yet. One of the biggest things that draws people to the black pill, at least to this looksmaxxing community, is definitely that it's very easy to believe that if you just flipped a switch or changed everything external about yourself without any real introspection or work, then you could have a perfect life. So many of these people turn to peptides, steroids, and even surgeries without even attempting to actually improve themselves. Not only is it alluring to dangle the solution to every problem someone has in front of their face, but it's also comforting to delude yourself into thinking that if you change your exterior, then your interior will change along with it, and that all of the superficial fruit that a changed appearance would bear would be enough to make you happy. All in all, it's kind of a lazy mindset to have, and despite the gratuitous usage of the word cope that they like to throw around, it certainly strongly reeks of a way to cope with being unhappy with one's life and relationships. Speaking of cope, one of the funniest things about blackpillers nowadays is that they still love to use that word to describe anyone who disagrees with them. When it first started, it was because they were trying to maintain the facade of being a benevolent teacher, trying to help people improve their lives. So I guess coping was just denying the true nature of society, which is that appearance dictates everything. I never really bought it, especially since many of these people neglect different aspects of interpersonal relationships and sit around typing on forums all day, which sounds like a lot of coping to me. But since then, it has become some all-encompassing excuse. A lazy label to just slap onto the opposition, regardless of if it makes sense. Are you getting frame mogged because you have low test? Just stop coping and pin trend. Claiming that a photographer could have changed the results of his request with anything except becoming Le Chad Light?
Cope after cope after cope.
You get the idea. It's just a general label for not being on the same wavelength as them. But I want to make it abundantly clear that for the vast majority of blackpillers, you can find parts of their core logic and identify how they are clearly just coping themselves. So I'm going to take all of our main subjects today and do just that. Here we go, rapid fire. Starting with Clavicular, he whines about being socially isolated and his fans whine about the world making him this way, while he actively and intentionally avoided interacting with people throughout his youth, only going through the trouble of talking to women so that he could lie his way into having sex with them. Saying anything would have been different if his appearance had been better is completely disregarding the fact that in large part his own behavior dictated his experience. And especially saying that changing his outwards appearance would change the crippling mental issues on the inside is nothing but cope. Let's move on to Pear, whose life mission at this point has been to endlessly justify his choice to use steroids to random people in his comment section. Upon revealing that he was on PEDs, as well as making every single moment of his life center around this, Pear would be inundated by comments criticizing him for using an entire drug stack, including trenbolone, which is considered to be one of the most dangerous steroids with some of the most severe side effects, just to look like a natural lifter, and insinuating that he lazily decided to hop on without giving natural bodybuilding a real shot. In response to these criticisms, he has made several videos essentially whining about how he lifted for 3 years naturally before this.
So it's like you didn't even try to build a natural physique. That's something I get almost every single day, either in my comments or my DMs, dude. Like, Like, bro, I've been working out for 3 years naturally, and guess what? I was probably at my biggest 150 pounds if I was lean, dude.
And that he had to use tren.
People truly believe why I say I had to hop on gear, bro. Like, literally my whole life, I haven't even felt like a human. I felt like a backup character.
I'm sorry, but this is not the physique of someone who has been seriously and consistently lifting for 3 years. I would be genuinely surprised if Pear went to the gym more than twice a week for these 3 years, unless he had like some drastically different goal, like losing weight instead of building muscle. It's not possible to have this little muscle with 3 years of optimal training. Saying he needed steroids and implying that he trained anywhere near hard enough to unlock his natural potential is just pure unadulterated cope, because he obviously just wants to tell himself there was no other way to progress. Another banger Pear posted was a comparison he drew between people doing recreational drugs and alcohol and people using steroids.
There's a certain demographic of people that I would never, ever understand. You know, the people that, you know, drink, smoke, and take anything that is given to them, especially at parties, you know. They'll store a little creatine, you know what they say. But let's just say you bring up, yo, bro, you want to hop on a little cycle, bro? You know, get a little big and jacked for the huzz? They're just like, oh my God, you're gonna kill me. I don't know if this is just me, but I have never drank. I've never smoked, dude. And that's of my remembrance. And I've done it, it's been one time. Like, why would you ever do something that's bad for your health and makes you look worse? Would you not rather do something that is bad for your health that you can mitigate, but makes you look better? Come on.
It's an extremely common thing for steroid users to draw a false equivalence between alcohol or drugs and steroids, claiming that essentially they're valid for taking it because those other things are taken by millions of people and they're also bad for you. Oh, okay. Well, I guess if other people do unhealthy things, then doing a different unhealthy thing is no longer unhealthy. Obviously, something being more normalized in society doesn't make it healthier, but knowing that doesn't make steroids healthier either. It's just nonsensical. Probably the worst steroid cope out there though is when people point out that somebody taking PEDs looks like a natural lifter. Many people will become defensive and essentially reply with "and?" or "what's your point?" Obviously the point is that this is a lot of effort and side effects with potential health implications, essentially for no reason. This comment totally owns a valid criticism by saying, "Point of comment?" Wow, debunked. The only other feeble defense this is accompanied with is that they got it faster. Well, according to Pear, he was lifting for 3 years, and even now, when he's been enhanced for a while, I would say that a ton of people could reach his level with 3 years of natural lifting. Because Pear is just lazy. It wasn't faster, it was just easier, and it reveals that he has no work ethic, something he has to endlessly cope about. Something I've always had a hard time wrapping my head around is why people go to such extreme lengths as to inject peptides and steroids or even have surgeries and still feel the need to justify it so much. You're telling me you're prepared to make such a life-altering decision and you can't even live with the fact that some people disagree with it?
Normies will never be able to understand why you get surgery for improving your physical appearance. No matter what you do, you could tell them whatever, you're going to get judged. That is the consequence of it.
People disagree with it for a myriad of reasons, which I hope I'm getting across here. But for the purposes of this line of thought, if you can't justify it to yourself and others, or dedicate your entire online presence to explaining it away, you shouldn't be doing it, and it really looks like you're just coping. Garfield Arbuckle is one of the most bountiful fountains of cope you will ever find. If you were in the desert and cope was water, Garfield would be a full-blown life-saving oasis. Obviously, there are the classic takes I showed earlier. Everyone decides how they feel about you within milliseconds of meeting you, love doesn't exist, etc. But there is much more to Garfield than just this. The first video I saw from him was stating that not everyone can be special, basically implying that athleticism and talent in sports are largely determined by genetics. In that video, he states that if he was in an NBA player's body, he would be an all-star.
You know that common trope where the main character is supposed to be a nobody, but it turns out they have some special lineage? A lot of people hate that trope, and I do too, but I think it's true to how the real world works. If you want to be truly great and recognized as something, you have to have the talent to make up for it. Someone could play basketball and train their whole lives, but they'd never be as good as an NBA player. And not to sound like a hater or anything, but sometimes when I'm watching sports, I think, wow, it's really not that impressive that the 7-foot guy just dunked a basketball. I genuinely believe that if I swap minds with a professional athlete, I'd be just as good, if not better. If you put me in Ben Simmons' body, I'm becoming an all-star.
Besides the fact that Garfield is delusional, and based on videos I've seen from his volleyball matches, he doesn't have a lick of coordination or athleticism, He would actually go on to take this idea to the next level, claiming that hard work itself is genetic.
People like to differentiate talent and hard work, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive. We all know the saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But what if I told you it was talent all along? I believe that some people are intrinsically more motivated than others. Take Kobe Bryant. He was already a talented athlete, but he worked so much harder than the average NBA player. He trained so hard, to the point where it's actually hard to replicate. So I think he had some natural disposition to training incredibly hard. So if you agree that some people are naturally more motivated to work harder than others, then you should acknowledge that hard work is just a subset of talent.
Maybe I have a learning disability or a syndrome of some sort.
You don't have a learning disability, you're just lazy.
Maybe that's the syndrome.
This is taking it a little far. It's starting to really feel like an excuse to never improve himself or work hard because he can fall back onto his genetic inability to work hard. But it gets even worse. Garfield actually goes so far as to say that he doesn't even listen to people more talented than him because he's convinced that anyone better than him at anything doesn't actually know more, they just naturally became better than him.
I never take advice from people who are more talented than me, because it's like an ugly person taking dating advice from a model. Their methods won't translate to my game. The whole idea behind talented people is that they didn't need to work hard to be good at something. It came to them naturally. Yeah, I always see talented people telling others how to improve.
I've heard of people being humble and accepting advice from everyone, even those below them. But this is definitely a new one, refusing to listen even to those above him. This is the mindset of somebody who's already determined that he will never really be good at anything in his life. How about here, when he says that intuitive eating is a psyop because it only works for people who have good genetics.
The concept of intuitive eating was designed in a lab by Netanyahu to stop you from achieving your dream physique. Because that shit does not work for most people, myself included. I gained 10 pounds last semester because I intuitively ate and drank. The only people who benefit from it are the people who naturally have great physiques. And they don't want you to ascend, so they'll say, oh, I eat dessert and snacks all the time and look at me. Of course they look great, they were born lucky.
Intuitive eating was designed for those with eating disorders, by the way. Imagine having the gall to say that you ate whatever you want and drank a bunch of alcohol and complain that you gained weight. Even going so far as to blame it on other people because they gave him bad advice based on their superior genetics. This dude's determination to never take responsibility for any of his failings is truly remarkable. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are much worse Garfield takes I plan to talk about in a separate video. And how about Rehab Room, the OG of cope? I covered his excessive reliance on the word cope to dismiss any possible alternative ways to have a favorable social interaction other than just looking better. I also mentioned a comment that claims that Rehab Room did everything right, as in having a job and working out, complaining since he still didn't have a girlfriend. I already talked about this in the video, so I won't drag it, but what particular word would you say applies to that statement? And why? Well, because it's just easier to believe that he just couldn't have done anything different and stopped trying. He is just an unappealing person, I'm sorry. Obviously, the biggest cope of all is to say, I've discovered the secret to our society, and it's that everyone is shallow and superficial, women are disloyal, and how you'll be treated is always decided within milliseconds of people seeing what you look like. So anyway, I'm going to synthetically change everything about my appearance so everyone will like me more. I mean, that's just the people that actually decide to do something about it, however misguided. Rehab Room's channel entirely exists to wallow. There was nothing these people could have done differently. The interaction was just doomed from the start. Don't even bother trying. Never get invested. Really, never. There's not one single person worth giving your time and attention to, because all of them are just vapid, hypergamous brainlets who will leave you the first time they see someone taller than you. If you sit around thinking that, that is cope. And even for those who do something about it, all they do is change their external appearance. They claim to be these altruistic mentors, guiding people to enlightenment. But in reality, all they're doing is feeding into their own insecure need for validation. Saying society is messed up, and then making it your life's work to conform to it as much as possible, and claiming that you wouldn't have a good life without these drastic measures is the real cope. It's because they are mentally stunted, insecure little children. They don't fit in, and this is how they cope. And you can't really blame some of them for coping this way. They're doing their best to reconcile things that they've been told for a very young age by other misguided people with a world that may not always fit that view. And when you're forced to reconcile extreme decisions you've made, your mind will do its very best to convince you that you've made the right choice and you haven't done all this for nothing. A 2010 study titled The Neural Basis of Rationalization, Cognitive Dissonance Reduction During Decision Making states that after a choice is made between initially matched options, people no longer find the alternatives similarly desirable. Rather, people adjust their attitudes to support their decision by increasing their preference for the selected option, decreasing their preference for the rejected option, or both. This rationalization is thought to be motivated by the drive to reduce cognitive dissonance. Essentially, after being entrenched in this ideology for so long that they've made huge consequential decisions to align with it, these people will become less and less likely to be able to recognize the flaws in its logic. It could also possibly mean that they will continue to try and invent justifications for their actions, even if they don't logically track. And this is the problem. Even if people are just young and dumb, making huge decisions like these, accompanied by online communities that often close ranks and validate people who agree with them, can negatively impact people for life. And that brings us to the guest star, Timothy Haireth, who seems confused at everyone's criticisms that he's too young to have 11 simultaneous surgical operations on his face.
A lot of people say I'm way too young to get surgery because I'm 21, especially because I'm getting double jaw surgery, genioplasty, chin implant, jaw implants, buccal fat removal, rhinoplasty, infraoral implants extended to my zygos. And a lot of people say, oh, your face isn't developed at 21 or whatever. I was ready to get my surgery at 19. I got a corner lip lift, and that was in preparation to have new ratios for all the jaw implants and stuff. And I was ready and good to go by age 19. The only reason I didn't get it then was because my stuff got delayed. And my bone structure has not changed since 19. So I really wonder what the people who say I'm too young now would think if I got it back then.
First of all, did you really think people were saying you're too young because they expected your facial structure was going to drastically change after the age of 19? No, they were probably trying to look out for you, though they probably should have told you to go to therapy. They were just trying to protect you, because the real reason you're too young is that you clearly have underlying issues and are convinced that getting so many surgeries done to your face at 21 is the only solution to those issues. I think the hope was that by the time you realize your face isn't going to change, you would have also realized that this is a stupid idea and that going down this path at such a young age is only going to create further issues. As I was writing this script, Timothy has actually gone in and had the surgeries. And of course, the horrifying immediate results have made for great TikTok content. I thought from the original video that the only thing that stood out about his face, other than the fact that he doesn't look bad at all, and this clearly must be a maladaptive way to address his crippling insecurity, was that he might be able to change how he looks by shaving and losing a little bit of weight. And here we see that that's probably true. Now, I have no issues with anyone being overweight, but working out is considered to be soft-maxing, aka trying to look better without resorting to drugs and surgeries. Why would this person jump straight to numerous surgical operations without trying the logical first step? It's clear he wants to be attractive without even working for it, and that for some reason he thinks that people will admire him for that. Well, normal people. There are already morons in the comments saying, "Bro, you're gonna be a hard-maxing legend." I guess I should have couched that by saying people with common sense wouldn't admire him for it. I want to also show you this clip in which Timothy seems to act like he's not the same person I've been talking about for this segment.
I've never been the first option in my entire life. I have cared about every single person I've ever talked to more than they care about me, and I have just never been the first pick for anything. It's almost like I'm a side character in a lot of people's lives, and I don't even understand why. I can even see the people that were picked over me in terms of like relationships and friendships, and I don't get it. I feel like there's not much that the other people have over me, but they still get chosen anyways.
Honestly, I think he's fabricating this video. He claimed to have made the decision to have so many facial surgeries years ago, so it's pretty clear that he at least thinks he knows why he's never been the quote first option. I think it's pretty obvious he's fishing for people to comment about the black pill, and maybe even put him in edits. A lot of his behavior seems to indicate that he's trying to farm these types of posts.
Actually, originally planning on posting on social media after my surgery. I want to have the greatest transformation of all time.
But it's just so rich to hear this kid, who's made this decision since 19, cite reasons that are essentially, I never got picked first in basketball in PE class. Because at the age he made it, just out of high school, that's probably not very far from all it amounts to. The only other thing he reflects on is trying to buy friendships, very similarly to Garfield. I find it completely unsurprising that both of them struggle socially, and sad that they blame it on everything out of their control. The reason everyone seems to have such a huge problem with adolescents and young adults taking such drastic measures is because they know what it was like to be a kid who thought they knew everything. One thing everyone who went through a similar phase is also aware of is that generally after a few years of living in the real world and making your own mistakes, this immaturity wears off. The only difference here is that some of these quote-unquote mistakes could potentially have much more permanent consequences than they did in the past. These people know nothing about life, but like all teenagers, assume they know everything. But unfortunately, these mistakes are much more serious. Clavicular is widely hated. He's clearly still extremely insecure, except now his insecurities are broadcasted and amplified by the entire internet. And that's not even accounting for the horrible effects all the drugs he's done have had on him. So yes, you're too young to understand. It's easy to go into your echo chambers of other 14 to 21-year-olds and hear that it doesn't get better, or you need to start younger. Or even some dumbasses like Pear, who espouse that it's better to live 20 years as a lion than 100 years as a sheep, or some stupid shit like that. If everyone who has more life experience than you thinks you're a moron, please take the hint. They want to be special, to have people be enamored with them and shower them with adoration, despite them not even initiating conversation or having anything interesting or worth adoring in their lives. So they decide the next logical step is to get it out of a needle instead. Surely nothing could possibly go wrong with that kind of mindset. Something I'd like to touch on is this idea that blackpillers are claiming the world is shallow and superficial, and that almost everything depends on your appearance. Firstly, if you think the world is such a horrible place, and your genetics pretty much give you a set point in society, what's even the point? I understand that some people may argue that it's acknowledging society's flaws in order to prepare people to get a leg up in this shallow world. But I don't really think this grandiose purpose is really congruent with their words and actions. Most blackpillers don't generally spend their time trying to make a positive difference in the world and convince people to improve themselves. They'd rather spend their time calling people subhumans, hyperfixating on specific ratios of facial structure and symmetry, and gatekeeping their discussions by acting like if you don't know what they're talking about on a TikTok, you're just a normie and a LARP. Take this clip for example.
Some guy called me subhuman the other day in like the looksmaxxing community. I understand, like I'm very insecure, I have flaws, I'm aware I have flaws, but what are your standards? Like what?
Really making a positive difference in the world. Holy IPD, holy negative Canthal tilt. 5'7" by the way, worst radix I've ever seen. Eyes 10 miles apart. It's just on and fucking on. Even Androgenic, a popular looksmaxxer, seems to have caught on to this.
It makes no sense why looksmaxxers would be mean. If you figure out that looks improve treatment, wouldn't you self-correct for that and then stop treating people differently based on how they look?
My theory is that these people do not have a real point or philosophy that they want to benevolently guide people towards. I think that at this point, most if not all of them are just horribly superficial people. And either they want to believe that the world is the same as them so badly that they project their beliefs onto everyone else, or they're just genuinely so far gone that they think everyone is as bad as them.
Because I don't like to be seen in public or make friends with these kinds of people.
Even in cases where the person is considered attractive, like Simon Baker, blackpillers will still come in and project their miserable mindset onto it, commenting on his negative Canthal tilt. What a truly bleak existence, really. Miserable, insecure people trying to make everyone else miserable and insecure, and parading it around as if they're doing some great service to society. But I think the most compelling reasons for blackpillers to want to believe that the world is just a horrible, shallow, superficial place is because deep down it is a very lazy mindset. In believing that your position in society and all of your failed relationship and loneliness are not your fault, but rather due to your genetics and an overarching societal dogma that dictates all interactions, you are in a way shifting the responsibility off of yourself and disregarding the possibility of self-improvement. It's an excuse to do and change nothing. Not only is it missing the forest for the trees, as self-improvement starts with mental change and is arguably more mental than it is physical, but it allows people to suppress any thoughts that perhaps they are part of the problem. I think we've all heard of Freud's defense mechanism, projection. It's certainly thrown around a lot these days. But I do think a lot of the things certain people like to say about society is stuff they want to believe or even unconsciously believe themselves, and they instinctively label everyone else as being the same way. But if you want a break from all this surface level garbage and want to hear a really deep analysis of the reasons behind looksmaxxing, here's Garfield.
The reason why men are drawn to looksmaxxing is because of the lack of meaning within their lives. And many women can relate because they have an innate sense of self-worth. Camille Paglia, a famous feminist writer, spoke of this. She believed that since women have the ability to create life, their lives are already complete. Even if they feel like a failure, they can tell themselves, hey, I'm like a little god, I have value. Men, on the other hand, are driven by extreme motivation due to their existential insecurity. They constantly feel the need to prove to themselves why they're alive. And they do this by doing crazy shit and seeking validation from other men.
So men looksmax because their existential purpose isn't fulfilled by giving birth. I guess that also means that women don't looksmax, or just have some separate reason if they do, and that their only purpose is to give birth. Well, that also means that men having children isn't really a big deal, and also that the biggest purpose other than giving birth is just looking good. I don't know where he possibly came up with this absolute drivel. My only hypothesis is that he recently came across that quote and wanted to appear well-read, seeing as he is the black pill philosopher. This is actually painful to consume. Here, I'll fix your video.
The reason why men are drawn to looksmaxxing is because of insecurity.
There we go. Jesus Christ, we got the modern day Aristotle over here. The Karl Marxilla, Thomas Aquilix, Copernicus. Emmanuel can't get bitches. Okay, it's getting too much. I mean, I think this reflects a larger trend of blackpillers where they just have no other purpose or passions in life. I mean, Garfield is basically saying it here. Looksmaxxing is the only other purpose they could possibly fathom, other than giving birth. But in the real world, there are plenty of people who have passions they can dedicate their lives to, and none of them depend on looking good. Who told you you had to do this, Timothy? You could be part of countless communities if you share the same hobbies or passions as them, or just go to similar places, live near them, meet them online, any number of things. Stop lying to yourself that you had to do this. These people truly are super shallow and vapid if they don't have any deeper purpose, and think that everyone else is the same as them. Another thing I think blackpillers might be a little unaware of is how absolutely corny it makes them look when they're constantly making edits of guys they find attractive and obsessing over the most minute details of their faces. They even have imaginary competitions where they engage in intense discussions about which celebrities or influencers are more attractive. I don't know if they really realize how pathetic this makes them sound, especially since nobody they're mentioning will ever know or care about their opinions in the slightest. Except Clav, he would probably care quite a bit.
Dude, what is with all this Chad worship, man? I mean, I just keep seeing like these videos of people being like, oh, sorry, Clav, and it's like some Chad, and I'm like, everybody's like, oh, he just got mogged, I hate him. It's like, bro, like, you guys are the very thing that you hate.
There's a reason that even amongst the most terminally online people in TikTok comments, these people are still ridiculed and told to go outside. It's nice that they have a passion, but similarly to my tangent about Rehab Room earlier, I don't think it would do them any favors in fostering new relationships if they somehow let slip that they spend their free time arguing which model is true Adam under edits of guys they think look handsome. Just kind of my own opinion there. Not only this, but sometimes these people feel the need to try and act like the black pill is some source of infinite wisdom for other important issues in life. Like this guy who says, the black pill has made me empathetic. Not only is that extremely sad, that in order for you to learn basic human empathy, you had to find some forum of sweaty losers who bully each other for their appearance, but the takes in this comment section are bordering on pure genetic determinism, or even a lack of free will in general. Listen, I get that it may be hard to accept you have a bad maxilla or some shit, okay? But that's not really an excuse for you to go online and start saying that free will doesn't exist. Have some personal dignity and self-respect. In this vein, here's Androgenic again, this time saying that if you think hateful things about transgender people, you just got mentally mobbed.
If you are walking around and you see a transgender person or a gay person or a woman not wearing many clothes or a guy that's trying to show off and you feel any kind of resentment or negative emotion towards them, you just got fucking mobbed. You understand? You let them perturb your mental state. You let them enter your brain and ruin your day. You got fucking mobbed.
You really can't make this up. Apparently we have to put real prejudice into looksmaxxing terms just to convince people not to be hateful. Well, I was homophobic, but I don't want to get mogged. Listen, if you only decided not to be discriminatory because you didn't want to get mogged mentally, you have issues that should definitely be addressed sooner rather than later. And I don't want this to be taken as an attack on Androgenic because I think he's one of the kindest looksmaxxers out there and has been spreading a lot of positivity. I just think that if there's anyone out here who actually had this message change their fundamental views about prejudice, that's a little concerning. I think though, the corniest thing about any of them is the complete lack of respect for themselves and everyone else as people that their philosophies seem to indicate. I will say that in the process of making this video, I have made a grave mistake. I spent so much time engaging in these arguments in the terms that blackpillers put them, that I forgot one of the most important parts. In the real world, people care if you're a good person.
You're not going to be loved for being a good person.
Might as well just be a bad person then, right? I don't know about you, but everyone that I keep in my life, I do so because I think they're good people with kind personalities. Appearance matters in many facets of life. Only a fool would argue against that. But not only are blackpillers showing themselves to be horrible and shallow people, they're also completely neglecting the entire existence of personality when looking at the totality of human interactions. And I know they'll say some stupid shit about more attractive people are just perceived to have better personalities due to their appearance. That may be true for some extreme circumstances or on the very first impression, but there are so many other factors that play into these kind of things.
People very often cite this graph as a way to prove that the way you act doesn't matter and that your personality is just judged based on your looks. So if you're good looking, you'll be judged to have a good personality. But there is just so much more you can take away from the graph, because it's really just the fact that looks and personality play into each other a lot. Because if you have a better personality, you're also going to be perceived as better looking, and we see examples of this all the time. A good looking guy starts to be mean and then everyone calls him ugly online.
I'm of the opinion that all self-respecting people care if the people they're around are good people. And I think that's the point. These people don't respect themselves. And they want to think more than anything else that nobody else respects themselves either.
If they actually liked you, then they would have been with you. Because people always make exceptions and ignore red flags for those whom they really like.
No, Garfield. Only people with no self-respect would put up with things they morally object to in a relationship just because the person is attractive. And speaking of self-respecting people, I've always wondered why these people care about the attention of a society that is supposedly so vapid and shallow. One of the most surreal experiences of my online career is when I made a video that talked about the black pill a year ago, because the first portion of that video was how I was returning from fighting cancer and septic pneumonia, and I couldn't even walk or eat on my own. I tried to turn it into a positive and motivational message about how you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. And I got a comment from somebody complaining about how 2 girls blocked him on a dating app because he was 5'6". Now, disregarding the fact that a human can actually consume all of that information and leave a comment like that, my response included the question, why do you care if someone that shallow doesn't give you attention? Of course, that question went unaddressed, and I've since learned that asking a black piller a question that requires them to think about if they have any self-respect or not is never going to lead anywhere. It's like they've completely forgotten the fact that if someone completely disregards personality and only cares about looks, it makes them a loser whose attention is not worth seeking. Judging a book by its cover is a bad thing. People who make assumptions or dismiss others without context used to be seen as idiots. I've seen dozens of posts absolutely shitting on women who have height preferences, and I really do sympathize with people who feel like they're being rejected for something they can't control. That really is hard to accept. But all these posts ridiculing and viciously insulting these women, and you would still want to center your life around getting their attention? Why? Not only that, but if you turn around and act constantly jealous, resentful, and hateful, it's not going to do you any favors in the process, and people are going to treat you badly because of that as well. It's just pointless to engage in this kind of stuff, and I've really learned my lesson last time, because you can present to them how lucky they really are in life to have their health, their ability to go outside and exercise, eat what they want, breathe without having an oxygen tube in their mouths, and all they can focus on is people they've never even met in their lives rejecting them on a dating app. I'm begging some of you black pillers, please get your heads out of your asses. Wake up and smell the flowers. And speaking of this lack of self-awareness, I feel like you all need to realize that however much you make it seem like the black pill is undefeated, you are talking about within terminally online circles. If you say this stuff to anyone in person, they will look at you like you're a crazy person.
Most people are going to think you're weird and you're going to suffer because of it, in my opinion. So keep it secret, man. Stop telling everybody what you're doing.
That's actually hilarious.
My friends and I still make fun of the Rehab Room clips I included in my last video on the black pill, and of the comments who actually came away from it acting like I had no idea what I was talking about and their trauma was too deep for me to understand. But the pinnacle of the lack of self-awareness is that even if they didn't bring up these topics directly, I think these black pillers are unaware of how these views they have seep into their relationships and poison them. Of course, one of the main reasons blackpillers wouldn't notice their personalities ruining their relationships is that they would likely blame it on hypergamy or their appearance without even realizing it. The biggest example of this is Garfield. He is able to present narratives that make it extremely clear that he has a horribly fragile ego and a huge chip on his shoulder about his appearance, and somehow not even realize how they make him sound. I'll present two examples, an anecdote he recounted about an ex-girlfriend, and a piece of advice he shared about dating apps. Here's the former.
Whenever I see a short, effeminate gay man, I think to myself, did they ever have a choice?
Sorry, that's the wrong video.
Worst part of being a feminine-looking man is the disrespect you receive from women. They will go out of their way to emasculate you because they think you're a bitch. This one girl who I used to date would squish my face and call me a baby. It pissed me off so much because I'm a grown man, not a baby. Are you telling me you like babies in that way? Bit odd. And I've been told several times by women that they feel like they wear the pants in the relationship, which is the type of shit that makes me want to abandon civilization so I never have to interact with the Ford ever again. Like, what prompted you to say such a thing to my face? I also hate it when I get called cute, because I don't want to be cute, I want to be hot.
In this clip, Garfield clearly establishes that there's something he's been very insecure about for a long time, and then he projects it onto an innocuous scenario with his ex. It is completely normal for someone to be messing around and treat their partner like a baby. I promise you that 99% of the time it has no deeper meaning. But since Garfield was so evidently insecure about being feminine, he got butthurt by this apparent slight and decided to freak out, probably making the interaction super awkward by insisting emphatically that he is in fact a super manly grown man.
It pissed me off so much because I'm a grown man, not a baby.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that this and other instances of Garfield letting his insecurities take over could be a large contributing factor towards his loneliness. But if that's not convincing enough, let's take a look at another example.
If you're on dating apps, you need to be careful using any photos that have your friends in them. Listen, I'm trying to help you when I say, don't use any pictures of you next to your more attractive friend. Sometimes I just look at the top photo and I assume the profile belongs to the most attractive woman in the center. I like the photo, then we get matched, but then I realize the profile belongs to the unattractive person off to the side. Then I have to unmatch with them and it's a waste of both of our times. I've actually used some of my likes to tell women that they should delete their top photo because it's misleading.
Now, at first glance, this doesn't seem like the most egregious take, other than like using your likes to tell women how to make their profiles. But if you take a second to examine this scenario, you start to think, what is Garfield going to do on every single date? Or, God forbid, he and his potential girlfriend actually hang out with his friends? Is he just going to keep hiding her from them in the fear that she will just unwillingly gravitate into the arms of any friend taller or more attractive than him by the all-powerful evil force of hypergamy? It's just stuff like this that makes me suspect that Garfield's inner insecurities play a greater hand in his social failings than he would admit. But speaking of this omnipotent villain, hypergamy, let's just take a second to go over that. Our dear friend Garfield actually has a video in which he shares his benevolent choice to not bear hatred for women, acknowledging that everything they do is a compulsive act forced by the hand of their hypergamous nature.
I don't get mad at women for being hypergamous, because it's like getting mad at a dog for barking or getting mad at a severely disabled person for drooling on you. It's in their nature to be hypergamous, and I can't blame them for something outside of their control. The harsh truth is, if all the men watching this video became women, they'd become hypergamous too.
Shut your fucking mouth! You really can't make this up. There's something so special about this guy just sitting there and regurgitating 14-year-olds fresh and fit level takes on the nature of women. I mean, if he was yelling and shouting about BBC alongside this take, I would have thought he was stiff as cold.
You don't make her pussy wet. The sexual alpha does.
It's just like this.
But here it is, this omnipotent hypergamy that blackpillers love to throw around at every turn to explain why they don't have a girlfriend. Now, the actual definition of hypergamy is the act or practice of seeking a romantic partner who has a higher socioeconomic status, wealth, or social standing. Essentially, it's dating up. In the world of the black pill, it's almost exclusively used to refer to differences in attractiveness between the genders, or as some lazy catch-all when women have standards they perceive to be too high. Many of the uses of this term stem from the infamous OkCupid quote-unquote study from 2009, which seemingly indicates that women rated men lower than men rated women on an attractiveness scale. However, in the same study, they state that while women rated appearance more harshly, they also, quote, shifted their expectations, while men's pursuits seem to be more oriented around attractiveness. As you can see on the graph, the women mostly message people around medium on the scale, with a very even distribution, despite having rated men in general so low. The men's distribution is significantly more drastic, and 2/3 of male messages went to the top 1/3 of women. All the study seems to indicate is that women have high standards for physical attractiveness but didn't actually act on them, while men had evenly distributed ratings but based their messaging decisions more on attractiveness. This is, of course, not even a reliable study, with no mention of the population size or even how they actually asked for the attractiveness ratings. And considering how old it is, it's entirely possible that none of these statistics are even representative of the general population. Beyond that, even if all those things weren't issues, it's a study done by a dating app, a place where in all honesty there isn't too much else to judge people on other than appearance, and a place that is widely regarded as shallow and superficial. It would be dumb to consider this as representative of society for anyone, no matter what the results indicated. Obviously, at this point though, the majority of what remains of the hypergamy argument is held up by random TikTok interviews of women who list outrageous and seemingly unreasonable expectations for men.
No, if he doesn't own a house that's over $7 million, I won't date him.
My type? Tall, dark, and handsome.
What do you mean tall, dark, and handsome?
6'2", brown hair, like a little scruff. That's my type.
So how tall are you?
5'5", 5'6" on a good day.
Generally attaching phrases like the bare minimum just to rub it in. But this is another instance of blackpillers just not experiencing enough of the world and going outside, because these are just the most extreme cases, and that's why these channels post these clips. They generate a ton of interactions and cause people to think that all women are just these money-grubbing, height-shaming, horrible people. They don't reflect the majority of people in real life. Additionally, a lot of these clips are talking about their dream partner, which obviously is going to be pretty unrealistic. Many people, when asked about their dream job, aren't going to answer, my current 9 to 5. They'd probably want to be a CEO or something. It just reads like you're terminally online if you feel compelled to compulsively argue against these obviously outlandish clips, or if you see things like the OkCupid study as indicative of society as a whole. Additionally, a lot of these hypergamy arguments reek of misogyny, assuming that all women have some sort of biological directive to be shallow and disloyal creatures.
Because it's like getting mad at a dog for barking, or getting mad at a severely disabled person for drooling on you.
While the poor, sensitive young men who resort to posting pictures of the woman-hating murderer Elliot Rodger in the comments of imaginary people dating tall men die lonely. Garfield saying women can't control their hypergamous nature and insinuating that their main purpose in life is having children doesn't exactly reflect well on his thoughts of women as people. It's just disappointing to see so many people parrot these recycled Andrew Tate flashcards and act like they're the philosophers of their time. It also leads to statements like this being considered normal in the community.
Goldilocks mix for a successful relationship is to have a girl that has family issues, right? So she needs a provider, she needs a father figure. But also she's very innocent. So she's like very, not well exposed. She's very sheltered off.
I want a virgin with daddy issues for my ideal female. This is what my girlfriend is. Jesus Christ, dude. Almost as bad as Rehab Room. I want to make another analogy for blackpillers, and especially looksmaxxers in particular. A looksmaxxing and blackpill adjacent case I have done a lot of research into is Dr. Mike Israetel, a self-proclaimed fitness scientist, and the lengths he's gone to in pursuit of his bodybuilding career and looking better in general. A couple of the clips I've included in the video thus far have been from a video by Solomon Nelson, a fitness consultant and law student, and Lyle McDonald, a fitness scientist and author, in which they discuss Mike's decision to have massive invasive surgery to remove fat from his love handles.
I have big love handles that store a lot of water from back when I got fat on purpose to try to do the spirit bulk. And so I'm probably going to get them cut off.
Mike Israetel has actually been interviewed by the other, more popular Dr. Mike, in which he expressed many beliefs that are in line with the black pill, including things like when you're unattractive, life isn't meant for you, and unattractive people will never experience love.
By a certain age, if you are not conventionally attractive, or at least decent, you start to learn subconsciously or consciously that all of these things that people live in their lives, romance, interaction, things like that, they're just not for you. That is a giant unmitigated tragedy. And then those people will have a psychological healing that is unprecedented.
That means there's some kind of pre-assumption that those who are unattractive are broken. Mm-hmm. You believe that?
Interesting choice of words by you. Not wrong. Hurt. hurt, and thus requiring healing.
It seems as if he is speaking from personal experience, and despite the fact that the more follicle-rich Dr. Mike had some rebuttals pertaining to the research, most of the people in the comments seem to be of the opinion that he is not allowed to weigh in on this, as he is conventionally attractive. There's even a hilarious clip at the beginning of the video where the haired Dr. Mike pretty much says that some of the research the bald Dr. Mike tries to cite either requires major caveats or is untrue in general.
This led to a lengthy discussion on beauty standards, the impact of them on mood, mental health, and even quality of life. Given that this podcast is focused on getting to the truth, regardless of the perspective, I think it's important to note that some of the research I looked at after the conversation shows broad variability on certain claims discussed on the episode.
I'm saying all this to establish Mike as someone who subscribes to the Blackpill, and to contextualize the discussion Solomon and Lyle had about his surgery. In this video, they also discuss Dr. Mike's denial that he suffers from body dysmorphia. Obviously, Mike's actions seem to contradict this, not only through this decision to have surgery, but also through his insistence on maintaining unhealthy amounts of mass for his height, which certainly puts a lot of strain on his heart and likely requires high doses of anabolic steroids. His denial rings especially hollow considering all the statements he's made about appearance and his own insecurity when speaking to the follically blessed Dr. Mike.
We're looking at something like body dysmorphia. We might question whether someone who has decided to have expensive, invasive, major surgery to improve ostensibly their placing in an activity that literally nobody truly gives that much of a shit about. I think we might question if that is crossing the line into self-damaging behavior.
Solomon brings up a good analogy, comparing this case to the way that society treats people with eating disorders.
If you have an underlying psychological issue, whether it's a diagnosable mental illness or not, I mean, the right way to treat it isn't by leaning into it until it somehow evaporates. Like, you know, anorexics, they want to be smaller, but nobody says that the right way to treat anorexia is to allow them to get smaller, you know.
And when you think about it through this lens, it really solidifies that these behaviors should not be encouraged. If your issues with your self-image are so extensive that you thought that love and life in general were not meant to you, you definitely need psychological help, not physical changes. And I hope that the people around you care enough to tell you that. I'm definitely going to be talking more about Mike in the future, as I'm planning on making a video about certain fitness figures, but he's a pretty good look into the looksmaxxer mindset that's being viewed from an outside lens. And I think the perspective it provides is very useful. Definitely check out Solomon and Lyle's discussions about Dr. Mike. They're very entertaining. We've talked about the consequences of buying into the Blackpill philosophy as far as taking drastic measures to change one's appearance. Most of them have given up even arguing against the dangers of their methods, starting to say things like the lion for 20 years versus sheep for 100 stuff. Pear has claimed that using the tanning peptide MT2 caused him to develop a cancerous mole on his skin. Here's someone else claiming that they took erdafitinib, a treatment for bladder cancer, because it's said to cause height increases, and that he could possibly be going blind because of it.
It's been less than 24 hours since taking erdafitinib, and my eyes already kind of hurt. You know, my vision isn't looking optimal. We're probably gonna chalk that up to being on my phone for 15 hours and the placebo effect. Alright, I'm gonna keep taking the erda, bro, because, you know, going blind would be worth reaching 6'4", but, you know.
This guy just straight up cut his face, Joker style, in an attempt to make his mouth wider.
I straight up botched myself. Like, okay, I don't have eye retouch on. It doesn't look that bad, but I try to do a 1mm cut or like 2 on each side of my mouth. Like, I used to use like a little scalpel thing, so I cut into my lip, like right here. Bro, it doesn't look that bad in the moment, but so much pus has been coming out.
These people have real mental issues and are taking extremely harmful courses of action. They don't care about the health consequences. And what about those who don't have the means to get an expensive surgery or black market drugs, or think that these changes would be ultimately meaningless? They may still take drastic measures, just in a different direction. Take a look at this comment section. This person seems to be expressing that they've resolved to take their own life and hope to reincarnate because they're 5'7". All of these posts, hypergamy, heightism, hearing how it's all over, and having your feed be inundated by constant reminders of those doing better than you, and how that supposedly makes your life hopeless. It's common if somebody posts a picture of themselves and are considered unattractive or much shorter than normal, to see someone reply with reincarnate. The only answer in their lives is to pray that after you end your own life, you'll be born as someone better off. And I don't care if these people are joking or baiting or anything, because this has happened before and it is still happening now. I don't think it comes as much of a surprise to hear that people with such a bleak outlook on life and human relations would often encourage or even engage in suicide. And that's why it's much more important to encourage people to take charge of the many things in life that you can control. Because no matter what blackpillers like to pretend they're doing, helping people open their eyes or focus on stuff they can change, the reality remains the same. They're glorifying mental illness and pushing people to take drastic measures. Whether those measures go one way or another is up to individual circumstances. Call it what you want. Learned helplessness, confirmation bias, hostile attributional bias, body dysmorphic disorder, anxiety, neurodivergence. There are many psychological terms that can be used to analyze the black pill. But most people don't need a deep analysis to understand that it's an unhealthy and demoralizing mindset that can send people down a dark path. It's dangerous and doesn't belong in society, at least being interpreted in the ways that it is currently. I hope this video has been more than enough to show you that the people that purport to have figured everything out in life are deluded and mentally ill, and that they don't know the secret to a life they've barely lived. Please do yourself a favor and stop listening to them. You might find yourself adopting a more positive outlook on life. It doesn't matter what anyone says, give life a chance. Sometimes it might just surprise you. Let's take a step back and talk about self-improvement, something that it feels like blackpillers have completely ignored the existence of. Pear and others like him claim that there's nothing wrong with using gear to look natural, because it's faster and takes less work. A fundamental belief of looksmaxxing seems to believe that if they can just change the outside, their life would automatically become better. It also functions as an excuse when flipped around. Their life isn't perfect and it's because of their appearance. But self-improvement isn't just external. It's generally defined as the improvement of one's knowledge, status, or character by one's own efforts, or the quest to make ourselves better in any and every facet of life. It's mostly internal. I'm of the firm belief that when you have real passions in life, the ability to dedicate yourself to something, and are able to reap the rewards of earnestly pursuing things that you want, it noticeably changes your personality. Oftentimes, if your self-improvement involves physical activity, changes in appearance become a byproduct of you pursuing your goals. They're important, but also not the entire picture. Wanting to throw syringes and scalpels at the issue to magically improve yourself is missing the forest for the trees. And of course, that's not to say that you can't just work out to be healthy, or that you need some grandiose goal in mind. Most people aren't professional athletes or bodybuilders. But if you're going to embark on a journey to fix all the issues in your life, and you think you're going to accomplish this solely through external changes that happen in an instant, you're probably going to find yourself to be sorely mistaken. And if your goal is for everyone to always show you validation and respect, and to be the center of attention, just for your appearance, you're chasing an impossibility. And your self-improvement journey should mostly be centered around reducing your need for validation. Self-improvement can sometimes be realizing that your outward appearance doesn't need as big an upgrade as you thought, and that you shouldn't be going to such lengths just to seek attention from others. What Pear and his peers are forgetting is that people traditionally value hard work and dedication for a reason. The discipline it would take to achieve his physique naturally is a mental asset with a physical byproduct. It does matter if you do it naturally, obviously because of the health implications, but also because of the principle. Like it or not, being dedicated and consistent is very sought after and beneficial in many facets of life. The black pill is a fundamentally incurious mindset. Everything only ever has one explanation, and nobody ever questions if things could have gone differently based on their personal conduct or how they spend their time, only on their appearance. But enough of the self-improvement drivel. There are books about that, and blackpillers probably wouldn't tune into a conversation about it anyway. Throughout making this video, I've had to adjust my script and add more clips because the people I'm talking about just keep proving me right. I talk about how steroid users will never have enough and constantly up their doses. Pear just happens to increase his dose. I talk about blackpillers thinking they know better than adults. Someone in the community says experience can outperform IQ and gets absolutely flamed. I say that these people are too young to drastically and artificially alter their appearance. Someone appears out of nowhere and gets 11 simultaneous facial surgeries after being told he's too young. I say they have no passions and need to stop hyperfixating on external validation. Garfield and Timothy come out to say blackpillers have no other passions or hobbies in life to give them purpose and community. You really can't make this stuff up. I didn't adjust my narrative to fit these things, I just added them all in because they fit what I'd already written so well. Before I end this video, I want to leave you with one more thing. For those who don't know, I'm a cancer survivor. For the past 2 years, I've been fighting acute myeloid leukemia and the myriad of issues that have accompanied it. I survived cancer twice and septic pneumonia that I got due to the chemo. And for those who do know, I'm going to keep bringing this up and dragging it because it's been my life for a long time. It's not my whole identity, but has significantly changed what my identity is. And this is one of the main videos I wanted to make ever since my first video on the topic, and since my relapse. There are some people who may think that I'm just coping, similar to the argument they made against Think Before You Sleep, because he had just had a breakup when he made his Blackpill video, even though coping would probably be that he couldn't have done anything to prevent the breakup. Some people also accuse me of being blue-pilled or not being able to understand the struggles of blackpillers. Neither of these are true. I have a lot of things going for me that I am at the front helm of, and I have had a lot of things I couldn't control along the way, but I stuck through the stuff I couldn't control for years, and now I'm finally taking the wheel again. I work out, practice volleyball, make videos, and do research, have a beautiful girlfriend, and I'm going back to school soon. But I've experienced some of these similar emotions, pitiful thoughts of, why won't anyone invite me to things, and similar notions. I've been the quiet kid who doesn't have many friends, so I know that all of those negative, wallowing things aren't the way forward. The way is to just move forward. Find passions in other areas than romantic validation, and find a purpose you can throw yourself into. And if you dismiss this by saying that you have no passions, then go to therapy, because you need to accept that life outside of validation from other people exists and is vital for mental health. When I made my first video, I detailed my experience with septic shock and my overall reflections on life in general, and yet there seemed to be a lot of people who didn't even try to consume the message of the video. As I said, I had someone complain that they had been blocked on a dating app for being 5'6", and I know I already mentioned that. That's because it's fucking ridiculous. Can a human person really reconcile those things and take that course of action? They have to have their heads so far up their asses that they can eat breakfast for a second time while it's still warm. I'm not doing this to say, woe is me, look at how much worse I have it than you. I'm trying to say, appreciate what you've been given more, because you can accomplish so much with your life. And I want to be able to show with my own life and my own actions that it's true. Do you know those stories where people say, nobody knew if I would walk again, or do blank activity again? Well, nobody said that to me. As I laid in the hospital and underwent dialysis, a shunt in my lungs, a tube helping me breathe, and my heart skyrocketing to 180 if I did so much as sit up, nobody said that to me. And that's because they fucking knew I would. Maybe they were just being polite, but at least I knew. I knew I would get it all back. Here I am, as someone who actually had their genetics impact their life in a real, tangible way. I had a genetic mutation that caused cancer to form in my blood. I had septic shock from my chemotherapy. I still worry about a relapse every single day, and the future consequences of the age my body has undergone. But here I am fighting every single day. I work out every day. I crawled my way back to where I am, and now I'll keep crawling until I catch up to everyone else. Right now, I'm playing volleyball in a men's league. I'll return to school in the fall, and I have 6,000 subscribers. But I will return for playing for my school team. I'll keep refining my physique and working towards improving myself in every facet. Have you ever started again from zero, from even less than you were before starting? That experience is something few people have, and I won't stop until I'm satisfied. Because the man who thinks he can do it and the man who thinks he can't are both right. Even if I relapse tomorrow, I will have lived my life on my terms and never faltered from striving for my goals. So if you don't take anything else from this video, take this. You can do anything. There will be things you can't control, but don't let knowing that control you any further. You and I can do anything we put our minds to, and life is beautiful. I'm done thinking my message is too intense for my channel, or being afraid I'll relapse and my words will be forgotten. Please at least consider what I'm saying here. If one person can hear these words, then I'll have done something. And I'll keep working to do something with every step I take. I spent a long time writing this video, writing and rewriting new segments and updating every time I've had a discussion with a friend or seen a new post that fits into my narrative. Hopefully you didn't find it to be too long or too redundant, and I'll consider posting certain segments like the cope one as their own video if nobody watches this one, just because I like the message. Overall though, I just feel like I've been needing to get this into the world. And though I strongly dislike most of these blackpillers, my main goal is to show people that life amounts to much more than they would have you believe. I would like to believe that I'm a living testament to that. There is so much more to enjoy in life than silly superficial things. Just keep that in mind. Thank you for watching, and good night.